Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We definitely appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate the subscriptions. We appreciate the like, shares, all that good stuff. Please continue to do that and continue supporting the channel. We definitely appreciate it. Tell Google that you like this type of videos by liking, sharing, and subscribing. We're going to talk about medical, and I think this is a very good subject because a lot of guys don't talk about medical. Medical is like one of those, basic medical training. It's like one of those things that we don't like to talk about, just like communication. And we just did a show on communication, and it's extremely critical to know how to communicate and to know how to have some type of medical training. So we got Mac. He's been here in the channel several times. So go ahead, Mac, do an intro.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me, Jarhead 6. I'm CavIntry9mm or Mac from Battle Drill 6, whichever way you want to look at it. Just like how Jarhead 6 was saying today, we're going to talk a little bit about medical to try and get people on the right track for dealing with a combat medical situation, any type of care under fire, or something along those lines.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, man, and medical, dealing with some type of combat situation or dealing with some type of situation where somebody gets shot is something that you could never prepare for. I don't think you could prepare for it. I mean, I deal with some situations where people are being hurt, and it's just one of those things that it would impact your life. It will follow you the rest of your life. But knowing basic medical tips and knowing how to stop the bleeding, know how to treat for shot, knowing what you said could definitely save people's lives. So wouldn't you agree, bro?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I absolutely agree. It's knowing medical knowledge is every bit as important as the firearm knowledge, because people don't understand is that you still have a reaction after you have acted with using that firearm, whether self-defense or whether you're in combat or whatever the engagement is. You still have a responsibility afterwards, and not just to you or your family members, but also to the offender. If somebody breaks into your house and you shoot him and he's not dead, you have a legal and moral responsibility to treat him.
Yeah, that's a pretty subject, pretty discussed or controversial subject, because I would agree with you on the fact that you have some type of responsibility morally or whatever, maybe religious or maybe legally, to provide some type of help, but also you have the responsibility to protect your family. So I would say that if you have the opportunity to do it, to definitely do it, but at the same time not to risk your safety or your family's safety, because you never know. You know what I'm saying?
And I'll preface any of the medical treatment by saying that medical treatment, the first priority in medical treatment is always security. Security is always first. You can't treat anybody if you get shot first, or if you get shot as well. So the security is always your number one priority. Whether you're setting up a patrol base and you're getting ready to bed down for the night, or whether you're given medical treatment, security is always first priority.
Yeah, and quick story, because I like to do that. I went to a place where we're very quick, so you don't have to scream at me. It's gonna be very quick. But I went to a place where a guy got shot, and as the corpsman was like working on this guy, a Taliban came out. One of the bad guys came out, and the Marines reached back, grabbed the corpsman's pistol, and engaged the guy. So the guy was shot, and still engaged the bad guy, and pretty much took him out while he was shot. So I guess, yeah, you're definitely right. Security is very important. I mean, I wasn't there. It was one of those things that I got to the base and it just happened. I would have loved to shake that guy's hand, because
and that's
pretty good.
That's something that happen in combat engagements with the medics, is that's a common thing for people to do, is to get that tunnel vision focused on what their job is. And medics do it just as well as everybody else does. They think that they're a medic first, and the reality of it is that they're a shooter first, and they're an operator first before they're a medic. So they need to make sure that they're doing their due diligence to provide that security and provide that cover fire before they worry about treating that casualty.
Yeah, you're right. Unless you're on YouTube, if you put over 300 videos, you automatically rate the operator status.
Is that what it is? 300. Yeah. I got a ways to go there now.
300 videos makes you an operator.
All right, guys. I know how to temporal index, so I'm good to go.
Oh Lord, don't even go there, dude. All right, so basic training, medical training. Now, I went through the combat life-saving class in the Marine Corps like about 6,000 times at least. I took that
Right.
class like legitimate, like like every 6 months, every deployment we took it. For you guys that are not aware, that's the combat life-saving basic class, how to stop the bleeding, treat for shot, how to patch somebody, things like that. They do have a more advanced class. It used to be called DMOC. That's where you actually go and cut the pig and learn how to stop the bleeding, quick lock, a bunch of weird stuff. But I never got the opportunity to do that class. But the CLS class is pretty good. So
It's
again,
very dependent on the instructors.
yeah. So what do you think? I don't even know if the civilian life, do they offer classes like that? Are you aware of any classes?
I mean, you've got your basic EMT courses, and then if civilians, if you want to talk about basic training, I mean, let's assume for a second that you have absolutely no medical knowledge and no medical training, and then you can fill in the blank for where you fall in this category. But first thing that you need to probably do is go get some very basic first aid training from the Red Cross to the American Heart Association, and figure out how to do just this very basic stuff. And a lot of that is cookie cutter crap, and it's pretty dull and boring if you have any concept of medical training, but it's a good certification to have because it gives you a little bit of legal protection if a situation were to arise. But more than that, it does have good information. If you have good instructors, my last instructor for when I got recertified for CPR and first aid from the American Heart Association, he was an old 18 Delta. So he kind of took me aside and was showing me some different techniques and stuff different ways that I can actually use, because he knew that learning how to put on a Band-Aid didn't do me a lot of good. So that's where you can start with. After that, there's different levels of things. We've got first responder courses as well as EMT courses, which most people will never get their EMT. And I know that depends state to state. Some states it's a multi 4 or 5 month process, and then other states it's a 2-week course. I know that changes a lot depending on where you're at. But most people probably aren't going to go that far. So first responders about as far as they're going to get. Realize that a lot of the schools out there do offer tactical medical courses, and that's something the Battle Drill 6 in the future. And I'm hoping by the end of this year that we'll have a combat medical course that we can actually teach. That'll be probably somewhere between 3 and 5 days of just medical treatment. So that one I got to wait until I can hire an instructor, somebody a little bit more qualified to teach that than I am. So, but that'll be something we'll be having coming in the future, and those are good places to start. So, first aid, a combat medical course, and your first responder courses are probably where you need to go as a civilian.
Yeah. And well, let's take it back for a second. I know they do teach a lot of things, but there's some basic things that people should know. Like you talk about CPR, that's just like the very basic of the basic. And a lot of places out there would give you the class, and I don't even know if you have to pay or not. But there is some, like the American Red Cross Association, things like that. There is some training that they do that may be very cheap or maybe even free. I'm not really aware of that.
Extremely inexpensive. It's only typically they're $50 and $60 courses. I want to say my last one I did American Heart Association. It was $55, something like that, for a 1-day CPR, first aid, and AED course. So it's they're pretty inexpensive, and it's a good place to start if you have no medical knowledge. If you have medical knowledge and you don't have certifications, it's again a good place to start. A lot of guys have, like me, my dad was a doctor, so I grew up with tons of medical knowledge. I can stitch, I can do whatever needs to be done. But I didn't have a lot of certifications when I first started out. So it's a good place to go get those certifications and to get started with. That's one of the things that we're looking at offering is getting either through American Heart Association or through the Red Cross, is actually being able to offer those first aid classes. Because again, it's a real easy course to put together. American Heart Association tells me what I have to teach with it. And again, you can offer them fairly cheap, like $50, and you get your certification and you get a decent amount of training.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Especially when you get those certificates. If you like me, I love getting certificates. So, but all right. But so what's the other than that CPR? Basic things. I mean, let's talk about. Do we want to break it down in like, hey, look, I got a boo-boo and I need this type of training versus basic, intermediate to advance. For you know, our audience is pretty much guys that CCW, guys that carry guns inside the house, guys that hang around with guns. So most likely, if they find themselves in some type of confrontation, it's going to be a shootout. Somebody's going to get shot. So I think that's going to be more than basic. That's probably going to be in the intermediate range. So what is
okay? So here's the thing, and I actually have a video where I go into a little bit of this. But what we're looking at is we're looking at that golden hour. So we have from the time of the incident to you're not trying to treat them. I'm not trying to sew anybody's guts back in. On that golden hour, you have 1 hour, and all we're doing is from the time of that engagement, the time of that incident, to get this person to the hospital. So that's all we're trying to control. So when it comes to doing things to controlling gunshot wounds, you got your three big attributes that you got to control: bleeding, breathing, and airway. And so that's why I tell people the kits that you have on your body, and whatever it is, you know, whether you're using Null Attack's little taco kit or the ventilated operator kit from Tactical Response, whatever kit you're using, that's what it needs to be designed for: is bleeding, breathing, and airway.
Man, I don't know how I feel about carrying a medical kit on my body, man. I just don't know how I feel about it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I just don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I already carry a gun, a knife, a flashlight.
Well, that's the thing. So I'm not you know, I don't carry a medical kit around with me every day. You know, I know you got your little man purse, but I don't carry a medical kit around with me every single day. It is something that stays on my kit, on my plate carrier, or right now I'm testing out a new method. I'm using I'm using that Condor rip-away pouch that I did a review on, and so I'm testing that one out on my belt and seeing how I like it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. If you want to carry a med kit, whatever you want to carry, guys. If you want to carry something, carry. It's a free country. I don't care. But I don't know.
You understand? You can't carry everything.
Yeah, I know. And you know, it goes back to preparation. No matter how prepared you are, something's gonna happen, or at least that's my experience. That it's just gonna take your plan and it's gonna destroy your plan. And the way how you react to that is what's gonna keep you alive. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how many times we were prepared to respond to A, B, and C, and then D happened, and then we had to change the entire plan. So I think making a decision is probably making a quick decision and an effective decision is probably going to be what keep people alive versus all your gear. But
no, absolutely. Yeah. And you got to realize a lot of the stuff that we keep in these med kits can be implemented by what you have on you as a daily basis. You know, you think about gauze and tape can be, I mean, an Israeli bandage can be made pretty easily with a t-shirt and a belt. Yeah. Same thing with a tourniquet. A tourniquet can again be made with a belt and a piece of cloth even. You know, it doesn't take much to do these. So a pocket knife is probably the most universal tool that you're going to have for your first aid kit to be able to make those artificially make those pieces of equipment.
Yeah, and you know, and it goes back. You were talking about legal issues, and again, we're not lawyers, so definitely check with your lawyer. But what's different, because I never faced that type of situation in the civilian life, but I did face that type of situation in the Marine Corps. And I remember one time, man, we had to put this bandage, and we taped the guy's bandage to his face with electric tape. And I got to tell you, definitely not a good idea. Definitely something that I would not recommend. But once you hit a car bomb and everything gets destroyed, I mean, sometimes that was the only thing we had. We used electric tape, and you know what I'm saying? It just happened. I mean,
the time you need your first aid kit is the time that you're going to leave it at home. You know, you took it out of your car because you were vacuuming your car or whatever it is. It's the time that you're going to leave it at home is the time that you're going to end up needing it. And so that's just the reality of the situation there. So you're absolutely right. You can use whatever's around you. Understanding how the Good Samaritan law protects you and stuff like that is one of the reasons why I say having those training certificates is good legal protection. But like you said, we're not lawyers, so I'm not about to sit here and give any legal advice on the subject.
Yeah. It's kind of sad, man, that sometimes you just want to do the right thing. I want to help out somebody. I want to do the best that you can, be a good person, but you could face on top of a legal issue just because you were trying to do the right thing. I mean, that just blows my mind, man. You know what I'm saying?
You know, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. All right, so you got a med kit. You want to kind of show us what you got there?
Yeah, and like I said, right now, this one I'm testing this Condor rip-away pouch, which I do have a review on it. I will say it's a bit big for a med kit, but it's definitely a well-built piece of kit. And I've never been a huge fan of Condor. But some of the basic things that you need to have in there when we talk about gunshot wounds is, like I said, bleeding, breathing, and airway. And this kit has kind of been stripped, so I may not have everything in here that I need to use because I stripped it just recently building a different kit. Anyway, so bleeding, breathing, airway. So the reason we do it in that order is simply because you can bleed out in 60 seconds. If you have a large artery cut, you can bleed out in 60 seconds. So we need to look at things, and these are the old-fashioned bandages, but you know, you look at things like the newer Israeli bandages, what's everyone keeping in theirs, which I thought I had one in here. I guess that's one of those things I took out. But an Israeli bandage, if you guys haven't seen it, that's the one that has a little ratchet on the back, so you do one loop, ratchet it down, and then it actually puts pressure directly over the top of that wound, just by the design of it. Very good piece of kit to have. You'll see every soldier in the world is issued one when they go overseas. It's on your body, so definitely one of those things that you want to keep in there. For your personal one, gauze always comes in handy for kind of the same sort of thing if you're packing wounds. And then depending on how you feel about it, and there are different expert opinions on it, but using stuff like the combat gauze, you guys can take a look at that. This has a coagulant agent in it that allows your blood to clot a little bit better, and so that's one of those things too. You can use it similar to gauze, stuff it down in the wound, and then throw the Israeli bandage or the tourniquet over it, however. And so anyway, so that's how we can kind of look at stopping that bleeding, and then breathing being the next one. And so the big issue that we're going to come to is a chest wound. You know, chest wounds are a little bit different. We don't just put a patch over them and call them a day. We got to treat those like it's a sucking chest wound, and so a tension or a needle decompression for a tension pneumothorax, so that way we can actually decompress that and get that lung to quit. Basically what it's doing is rotating your heart and pushing your trachea over, and so we can get that to stop, and so that person can breathe. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, two things on that. I could never pronounce that word. I just could never do it. Yeah, and second thing, I seen it done it, and I seen that in real life. I had to hold this dude one time to get it done, and you got to be prepared mentally to deal with that. A lot of times we say things like a tourniquet, you know, like just put a tourniquet or just do this and do that. And I know you know what I'm saying. I know we're in the same page, but for some of the guys watching, this could be not only the fact that you have your gear, not only the fact that you're ready to do it. I mean, mentally, you have to be prepared for that. If you're not a guy that, you know, like some of the guys EMT deal with this kind of situation all the time. But if you're just a regular dude like me and you, putting a needle in somebody's chest while the guy is screaming and fighting may be pretty, you know, something pretty impacting. Now, you're going to do it because you got to save his life. But again, it's one of those things that you got to be a little bit prepared to take care of business. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, and you're absolutely right. Mental preparation for that is a big thing, and even and you'll see that just go to a National Training Center down at Fort Irwin, and you'll see soldiers that put a tourniquet on these dummies for the first time, and even on a dummy, these dummies. Some of them are so lifelike they will struggle mentally to do it, and so it's a different. You got to prepare yourself mentally.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely.
And then, like you said, though, getting the proper training on how to do it. Don't just think that you can watch a YouTube video and thrust this into somebody's chest and decompress that tension pneumothorax. That's not a good idea. That's a great way to make somebody bleed out and kill them, because there are arteries that run there that run right where you need to, right between the second and third intercostal space.
No,
so
you're right, and I go back to what I preach many times in the videos, and I'm gonna continue to say it because it has to be said. YouTube is a great platform to get information, a great platform to learn some things, but nothing is going to replace formal training. An instructor there telling you what to do, how to do it, and criticizing you. Not only telling you, hey, you suck, but actually giving you hand-to-hand, you know, ways to do something. You just can't replace that, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm actually going to do a medical series, and I may work on one of the videos actually as soon as we're done recording this, but I'm going to do a medical series here over the next couple of weeks and we'll talk about how to do some of that stuff. And before I do each one, I'm going to have to give that same disclaimer that, hey, this does not make you an expert. Go out and get the formal training. This is just to give you an idea of what you're doing here.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so like we said, bleeding, breathing, airway. And so when we get to the airway, what we're looking at is we're looking at typically going to be the nasal pharyngeal, which is a big tube that goes in somebody's nose and down the back of their throat, bypasses the tongue and everything, so that way they can breathe. And those are really the big things that you need to have in there. And then obviously, you know, I'm sorry, we missed the tourniquet part. Obviously, you're going to have a tourniquet, and then there's a lot of different theories on a tourniquet. But personally, I think that you probably should have a tourniquet inside your combat kit. That way, a medic or anybody coming up will know where to find it. If you're really smart, though, you'll keep one rubber banded somewhere on your body that you can reach it with both hands. That way, you have the ability to give yourself your own put your own tourniquet on.
Yeah, that would be a really bad day.
Typically, you know, I always made my soldiers. They always carried two. They carried one that was in their IFAC, or their your individual first aid kit, and the other one was either rubber banded somewhere. Like I said, I always just kept mine somewhere up by my neck, so that way I could reach it with both hands, and it was out of the way of my mag carrier. So just kind of depending on how your kit's set up, you can find a place to put it that you want to be able to reach it with both hands.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy how there's so much gear out there nowadays, man. I remember in 2003 when we went into Iraq, we have nothing. like a tourniquet was like, take off your belt and put some pressure and good luck. So I just love the fact that there's so much gear out there, and I know a lot of companies are taking advantage of that and making money, but you know what? This is part of the preparation. You may not be able to afford so many things, but little by little you could purchase all these things, and eventually, and I'm guilty of this myself, you don't need 6 pistols. You probably need 1 pistol and medical supply versus 6 pistols and no medical supplies.
I'm a big proponent of that way, man. I tell people all the time, don't go out and buy a new pistol. Go spend $500 and get a class or get some ammo and go train. I tell people that all the time. I have the Glock 17, you see, and that's the pistol that I carry almost everywhere. It's the same one I use on my tac rig. It's the same one that I use for everything. Now I have more guns, but going back and doing it all over again, I'd probably just have that one and have a lot of ammo.
Yeah. And you know, and I'm not trying to criticize anyone. I actually had to check myself because buying so many guns, and I was kind of neglecting my food storage. And that's when I went out there and I put a couple of videos of storing rice and things like that, because I kind of told myself, man, I got all these guns, but where's the food? You know what I'm saying? And I guess you gotta have to like looking through your preps and kind of identify things that you need. And another aspect in my case is going to be communication. And I've been talking about it. I'm trying to fix that issue, but communication is a big one that I'm still neglecting. Now, medical, I'm okay there, but definitely is some things that you're showing that I don't have. That I need to check that as well, man.
Yeah, and like I said, this one, because I've rated this kit. It's not a complete kit. I just recently rated it because I built one for my Jeep, and so this one's been completely rated. But having the medical that medical knowledge and having that equipment around is important. And people tend to forget to check the expiration dates on this equipment. Now, a lot of this stuff. The expiration dates are there because they have to be there, and it's not really that important. But the package is not guaranteed to be sterile after that. So just keep that in mind that certain things need to be gotten rid of.
Yeah, pour some alcohol on it. So.
Yeah, I mean, certain things you can. Like, I mean, again, you're talking about something like a syringe. Yeah, we can worry about sterilizing that if we have to use it. But things like an IV bag, you want to get rid of those after the expiration date. You don't want to.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, you don't put contaminated water inside somebody's virus.
I hate that. Man, you ever did that training where you had to poke each other? I hate that training, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they don't do that anymore. CLS quit doing that, man. That's not allowed anymore. When I first came in, that's all we did. But, yeah, that's not allowed anymore.
Yeah, one of the last things before I retired, I went to a place and they had a new guy training in the Navy, and the lady was like, "Hey, Staff Sergeant, this is a new kid," and I was like, "No, I'm a Staff Sergeant. I don't get new kids." You know what I'm saying? I'm not new in the Marine Corps. You try that with a young kid. You crazy? Because those young kids will hook you up, man. So, all right. So, anything else, man? What do you think? What do you think we're missing for the basic guys trying to?
I think that's the basic thing. And it comes back to everything I always say is go get the training. The training is first, buy the equipment next, but get the training. So for you guys that have no medical training, start with a first aid class, and they're everywhere. American Heart Association and Red Cross, they offer them, and it's $50-$60, and you can go get started with that. If you've already got those and you're ready for something else, look at the combat medical training that offered by a lot of the different schools around the country, and then also look at getting first responder courses.
Cool. Yes, one more thing that I want to talk about it before we go out. Dealing with the aftermath. You know, again, home defense situation. You shoot somebody because he's trying to hurt you, trying to hurt your family. Police show up. You know, the guy happened to be killed, and you know he's going to be removed from the house. Of course, I mean, I'm talking about straight out self-defense. You were justified, and you kill a person inside your house. You got to keep in mind too that you're gonna have to deal with some type of aftermath, because it's gonna be blood in the floor, and even though if you deal with that, what my point here is, like, you're gonna have to treat your family, you know, maybe your kids and things like that. Seeing things like that may be pretty devastating, and it could be, you know, pretty traumatizing to those young kids and your wife and things, even to yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a little point that I wanted to make on that. Anything else before we go off? I think we covered pretty much everything. Pretty nice, straight to the point. You got anything else, brother?
No, I got nothing else. Thanks for having me.
All right, bro. So again, guys, we definitely appreciate you guys watching. Start getting some medical training out there. If you never have any training, start seeking out. You know, if you start looking for something, you are going to find it. If you want to do some training, you will find a place that is going to provide good training. Definitely, if you find a place, definitely do some research. Make sure it's a good academy. Make sure they're good instructors. There's nothing wrong with you calling them out, you know, calling the place and asking, hey, what do you guys do? Website, you know, reading some reviews. There's nothing wrong with that. So make sure you get some good training from good people. Definitely appreciate you guys watching. As always, if you like this type of videos, click like. I'm going to put Mac's channel link on the description. Subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more, and God is in control.